So sandbag to shoulder walk through. So you absolutely smashed it at UK. So tell us some of the pointers that you see that are really important.
So the big thing with sandbag is knowing your technique and what you're actually going to do first. So I had it kind of horizontal, big diggy underneath each side, really get it secure on the wrist so that the pickup was strong. I see a lot of guys, especially when trying to be fast, they just grab it and go. And one side might be underneath nicely, the other one's just kind of on your fingertips. And then you'll end up, get it on your knees, but it's obviously, it's not like a stone where you can roll it up, it's solid. Sandbag's going to flop, so you've kind of got to dig in then. And any time that you've saved or energy picking up fast off the floor, you've then used, because you've got to reset on your lap. And it's one of those where if you kind of get behind yourself with the sandbag not being in the right position or shape, by the time you get further up the lift, it's going to be so hard to adjust. So I really make sure that I have this super secure. Is that still recording?
Yeah.
All right. I have this super secure off the floor, and that I pull it into my stomach. So I try and basically keep it in the same orientation. Say I've packed it out a little bit by digging my hands under, I can keep that shape and keep it into one solid mass as I pull it in tight. If you let it go floppy, obviously it's loose, and then you kind of got to recreate the tension while it's on you. It's just a nightmare.
So do you prefer it when you've lapped it to have it like vertical or?
No, so I'll have it horizontal.
Yeah.
Really dig. If it's a heavy bag, that is, really dig under, create a lot of tension, get it as one solid mass. It almost want it to be like an acetone. Pull it into my stomach tight. Don't let it flop on me. Then adjust. I'll go around again, but still trying to keep that tension and keep it as one solid unit as much as possible all the way up. So when it starts to flop and bend, that's when you're going to come into difficulty.
Cool. So.
Should we have one rep and then we'll see what we can work on?
Yeah, and you keep talking as Matt's demoing. So what do you notice? Do you notice a difference between, like, say, lighter bags and heavier bags, and what would be the technique?
So with the lighter bags, it's basically you can just be a bit faster, and generally you can get into your shoulder in one pop. You might even be able to one motion if they're really light. You're probably not going to get that many of that light. Maybe the first one in the ladder, you might be able to just pull in and pop up in one go. But because they don't roll like a stone, you generally got to have some kind of catch and release. Obviously Matt's doing it here is kind of more vertical, and if you can see from the bag from this big dent, it's going to flop on him. So the key is when you have it vertically, you'll be able to get a nice good secure grip on it, almost a bit like you're grappling, kind of almost a Greco-Roman throw really. But when you pick it up, it's easy for some of it to get caught on the knees.
Yeah.
So the trick is to get it high enough to then be able to get your knees under, because you can be as strong as you want off the floor, but if you're stuck here, you're never actually going to be able to re-grab in the right position. So if we go for another rep. That was really nice how he did there. He extended all the way at the hips and it slid up his quad so that he could bring his knees in and his feet in.
Yeah.
If you haven't got enough hip extension strength and you get caught here, it's a real struggle because you're going to have to start angling it and digging in, and it's just going to be a nightmare. So with this technique, you really want to be as good a grip as possible and really give it everything on the hip extension. The higher you are, the easier it is, and you're better using a lot more energy here to get your hips through, because you'll save it by getting your knees under and then being in a strong position. So that's the key off the floor.
Yeah, I suppose like some people like stop here and then they're having to wrestle it up with their upper body.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is like as you're clearing the pickup, like try and explosively extend with the hips to get that almost like bit of clearance.
It's definitely worth using that energy and also having the secure grip. Because you see sometimes guys will put off the floor. Can you do one without gripping your hands? Or without what? Tell you what, 1, 2, dig under and just try to pick it up. See what happens.
So not as far under.
So you get one go with each hand and you got to pick it up. That's exactly what happens. The grip isn't as secure, he doesn't get it as high because his grip's failing before his hip extension is, so then he's got to readjust and work harder to get his knees in there.
Yeah, it's a lot harder, that one. Yeah.
So it's a bit like an Olympic lift, it's all the start. If you start right, you'll finish right, but if you start wrong, then you have to kind of make up for it.
So going back to that point at the hip where you're saying about extending power foot, like I think another good point is like it's where a lot of people make mistakes in terms of, or not necessarily a mistake, but they don't do it as efficiently as they could. Right? If you just get down into your start position, right? In this position here, Matt isn't in a good position to produce a lot of force explosively through his hips, but he is in a good position for lifting the bag from, like, basically split it up into two movements where you let go there. Hold that position there. Right, when Matt's in this position here, his hips and knees and ankles are in a lot better position to explode up explosively. So I think it's important for people to almost think of the pickup as two different movements, where they're basically trying to pick the bag from the floor to the knee, and then when they're at the knee, then trying to accelerate up.
Like a second pull on it.
Yeah, exactly. So get it to the knee and then explosively extend up, like you're trying to jump. Yeah, that was really good, Matt.
That's perfect. And then the pop was easy from the lat.
Good stuff.
Nice bit of post-activation potentiation there. If you're saying
Good stuff. Let's talk about the extending up now. So we've got a couple of tips on the pickup there for Matt. So let's use the scenario now. Imagine the bag is 20 kilos heavier. Like how would you like say he's at the point where he's not confident that he can get it up on that first pop. Like how would?
As in from the lat to the shoulder?
Yeah. So like there he's exploding up and kind of getting caught there. Yeah. Like another 10, 15 kilos.
So just do another one for me. Anyway. Nice, mate.
That was brilliant, by the way.
Fantastic. All right.
So that was the old technique, but
yeah, I thought if you want to cover that, you nailed that one. So basically, what's going to happen is at a certain weight, you're just not going to have the pop to get all the way, so you're going to end up in kind of the bear hug position. Now, what a lot of people do here, they panic a bit because the weight's on your stomach, it's harder to breathe, and you're being pulled forward, so the tendency is to lean back here, a bit like you would with an axle clean. The trouble is, if you lean back too much, you go into this kind of high extension low back, there's just no power, and you end up doing a dip, which is similar to how people, when they're not really sure how to lift the log, how they dip. The knees come forward, and then they basically not get any hips in, so it's just a hinge on the knees. Imagine doing a leg extension in the gym, it's a really weak movement on its own. The quads are really strong in conjunction with the hips, but on their own, it's a very weak movement there. So you end up trying to pop by sinking your hips forward, you're leaning back, and then you're coming back up, and there's just not much force going vertically. So what you really need to work hard with is, you've got to use your upper body, pull it in tight, trust that you can be more vertical, and then sink the hips down. It's probably not going to be as perfect as a jerk it would be with a barbell, but you've got to get some of the hips going down, so that then you can explode up, and the force is going up rather than being in this kind of lever position with the knees. So it's all about getting the hips in, trusting your upper body, being fast, pulling it in tight, hips down, and being decisive. You don't want to end up where you're doing little pops and moving an inch or two because you just get more and more fatigue. You want one big pull in, one big dip, and pop, and try and catch it. If you can even, dip under there and kind of get underneath it. Obviously it's a skill thing and a relative load thing, but if you can, one big drive and then get it to the shoulder in one go. You've got to be decisive. Similar to a continental clean, you see people just pop, 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 and then they're out of breath by the time they even get it to the shoulders. Yeah,
so I think a key point that you're making there is about the hip positioning. The thing that I like to do is like go soft at the knees, Matt, right? And then imagine you've got like your sandbag there, and like what thing that I do. Imagine you're doing a Zercher squat. You know when you're trying to find the rack position that like you were trying to hold it there for a minute or something. Yeah. Like a thing that I find is really helpful is like exaggerating the posterior tilt of the pelvis and almost like trying to tuck your hips under the load. You know, almost like this, Matt, like that, almost like that with the weight. And I find that like helps when like if you had to hold it there for a while. And what you can do here is couple that with pushing the knees forward like that. So you're almost finding the position that when the sandbag's there, it can help you achieve what Paul's mentioning about. You see people have that error of they either sit back on the heels too much, and then they've got nowhere to go in terms of power. Or if they do have power, it's going there and it's coming from the back extension, like you said. Or the other option is drop the knees too far forward and just have pure knee extension. Yeah. Whereas I just find by dropping the hips like that can help you have this kind of vertical dip power, and I find that you can achieve that even if you get to the point where it's really heavy and you can't pop it from there to there, and you're popping it to there and then you're popping it to there. Find that it's a lot more energy efficient because you're finding the rack positioning all the way through. Can you picture it with like a heavy Zercher, like if you're doing like a heavy Zercher and then holding it afterwards? Yeah, how that feels.
You do go into that, well, if you know what you're going to do, like posterior pelvic tilt.
Yeah,
that hips close underneath. I think if you can get away without it, especially if it's going to be one pop, it's a little bit better, it's probably a little bit quicker, and it'd be more in, the dip will probably smoother if you're in a bit more anterior pelvic tilt, more like it would be in a push press.
Right.
But if you're struggling to actually hold it, if your upper body isn't so strong, doing that will literally get your hips underneath it more, and it'll be more secure. And like you say, if you've got to do a couple of dips, that's going to be more secure to go up. It's kind of, if you're in, obviously we're getting into nitty gritty now, but if you're in anterior pelvic tilt, one big strong pop, trust it, that's great. But if you're not sure you can do it in one, if you can get your hips under, you'll find that you can grind through. I
suppose we're thinking like as a continuum, like say you're doing a bag run, the lighter bags, keeping the kind of anterior pelvic tilt, and the rack position efficiency doesn't matter as much because you're just going to get it up in one and you want that power. But if you feel like you're going to be wrestling it for a while, like you said about describing that position where you get to here and you're exhausted. So if you're trying to keep the hips back, you are going to be exhausted because your upper body's going to be slow. But if you're keeping your hips under it as you pop, it can be more efficient. You know, if
kettlebell rack position.
Yeah, like basically I'm thinking if you have like, say, I don't know, you going for a 180 or something, like like imagine that threshold where you might even pop it up to your tummy and you're still not confident you could get it up in one. You need to just get it up that little bit higher. Then kind of dropping the hips under technique can work well. But like everything we say, having these kind of things in your locker and to practice with different weights is really important. So let's try that one, Matt. And imagine now it's same bag, but imagine it's 40 kilos heavier. So this time I want you to do three pauses on the torso at different positions. There, and then pop it up a little bit higher. Pop it up a little bit higher. Pop it up. Right, now pop it up to your shoulder.
Nice.
Good man. Well done. Good stuff. So an error that I see on this. So if you've decided that you're going to use that technique of you are going to pop it up, pop it up, pop it up. A thing that I reckon you should do is, you know, like you dropped one of the arms under to help you with that kind of move to the shoulder. I think it's really important to leave that as late as possible. Right. So leave that till the one that you're guaranteed that you're going to do from there to your shoulder. Because I see a lot of people that are getting their arms under early and then they're going there, missing, there, and they're kind of, to basically provide that stability with this position, you're using so much core energy, or for that, like global energy, to send tension to this arm, because it's in such a poor position to stabilise. Whereas if you know that you're just popping it up anyway, or taking a tactical pop, keeping that kind of bear hug grip where you're locked in and it's really energy efficient in terms of your upper body can be really helpful. So we'll try on the next one just to see if it makes a difference. Take exactly the same pauses again, but I want you to do on the first few, I want you to just keep that bear hug, keep the bear hug pop until you're at the last one, Matt.
Nice.
Good stuff.
Did that really well there, where it was coming right up his face, because this hand only comes in when you've got lateral movement going to shoulder. So until you're high enough, you're not going to have it. You want it to stay right through your centre line. So he's up on his face, and then I need a little bit of lateral movement just to get it away from my neck, and then it goes with the hand under. So don't come early on this, like you say. Suddenly, this is a really strong grip together. As soon as your hands separate at all, it's weaker, and then putting one under, it's a lot weaker. So keep it all central as long as possible. It's only at the last second you want to go to the shoulder and go to the side.
Yeah. Brilliant. One more little tip on that, building on what Paul's just said. Right, what you can do is you're popping it up. Now we've established that leaving late to get under is going to be better, more energy efficient. Now what you can do with the little pop up, you know where you're staying central, because logically that's the best position to have grip for the pickup. What you can do, what I want you to try this time, is as you pop up, move your hands a little bit lower. So re-grip a little bit lower. So you'll get to the point here, before that last one, where your arms, instead of being 50-50, they might be like 65-35. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Imagine you've got a tunnel that doesn't move and you're just putting the bag higher and higher up. So then you don't have to move your arms, you're just moving the bag and keeping your hands where they are, rather than having to move your hands up each time. You'll get to a point where it'll feel nice and easy to leave it then.
So I want to see exactly the same, but on this one, you're using that tunnel analogy, your hands are further down the bag each pop. Nice. Pop and move. Pop and move. There we go. Good stuff. And I think that'll be easier when you've got more solid bag. It's tougher with that because you'll move on the solid bags and your arm will just set into it, whereas it's kind of stuck in that middle groove, isn't it? On that one. Yeah. But yeah, you understand the principle anyway. What was the final thing? Have you got anything to add on that?
Not really. I think that covers it. I would just say as well, make sure before you take your arm off, make sure you've, especially on reps or even a run, as long as it's not the last one, make sure it's secure, a bit like the dumbbell thing with two hands before you take one off. Because if you're doing reps and you're taking one hand off early, trying to stabilise on that one arm's going to be much harder. So you're better using two limbs as long as possible, right? You're set, then the arm comes off. You want to minimise completely the amount of time when you've only got one arm on the bag. So it wants to be off, down, drop it. You don't want to be chucking it up, letting go and thinking, oh, hold on, I need to still fight it. By the time that hand comes off, it should all be supported with the hips rather than having it on your bicep.
Your point to reiterate what you just said before about bringing it up here towards your face. It's like the same principle what you've been working on the dumbbell and on the clean, and that's tidied that up in terms of efficiency and energy per rep. So I think if everybody thinks of it as sandbag to shoulder, like if you just think of it as sandbag to like head or face, and then get out of the way and keep the sandbag close to the centre line. I think that's going to be. Let's just do one more from the middle. This is your last one, Matt. Yeah. So I want you to do it like you're going to knock yourself out in the face. So you're keeping it so close to that centre line.
Right up, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Do whatever technique that you want, but we're just demonstrating from the front this line now. So what shoulder are you going to? That one.
That one, yeah.
So this is the area people go from there to there, and then kind of wrestle to bring it central. Whereas you're just going to go up there, and there, and then move your head out the way. Yeah. Nice.
There we go.
Good stuff, that'll do. Get the point. Nice one, Matt. Well done.